spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of neither meaning. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't. Really, it ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun. It's an everyday thing. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram or beef.
Peace, 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 peace. Peace, greetings, love and light. Happy Holy Friday. Back again with another one of our BBT book club readings. I'm your host tonight, Noble Mosso L. And the book we will be touching on today is The Real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. If you would like this book, you could get it from our host website, one of our sponsors, mypdfbooks.com. If you would like a physical copy, check us out on bindedbooks.com. You can reach out to me personally through email at maatsons@gmail, mayatsons@gmail. We definitely would like all who tap in to check out this literature and get it. We have a lot of documents, books, rare, that you definitely will want for your catalog. We study these books every weekend, every weekday. These are part of our study books, just to comprehend the ancient sciences. History does not belong to one people. And these are just the studies of the ancient Americans, ancient America. A lot of these sciences, we study more science, and in the Quran it states a lot of these teachings were held back. And the sages of Persia, Mesopotamia, and all these old world cultures kept these documents and history, sacred. The history of the Atlantis, the Olmec, like we went over last week through the Moorish Paradigm book. So we really stress to brothers and sisters who want some of this literature to tap in with us, ask for a copy. We have no problem emailing you any of these books, any of these topics. And again, it's Holy Friday. And we are Moorish Sufis. We study Sufism. We are not Orthodox Islam. No disrespect to brothers who are Orthodox Islam, Sunni, Shia or Sunni. But we are Sufi. And we understand that God and man is one. Islam is I, self, law, and master. Allah is arm, leg, arm, head. So we definitely encourage brothers and sisters to study with us. Classes are every Saturday, 1:30 Eastern Time, along with Sunday school, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So with no further ado, I will touch on this book right here. As you can see, The Real Indian. The Real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. We went through this book plethora of times, but we never really never went through the whole thing. But I'm gonna scroll down to just some things I want to touch on from this book. Starting with the Nanticoke Moors, because the Nanticoke can be found in Delaware, a lot around the eastern seaboard, and they had a lot of sciences on herbs, remedies, natural remedies, healing, survival. And with the company I'm a part of, herbsofmayat.com, we continue this work. We have natural herbs, natural remedies, natural teas. So I definitely encourage you to check out my website as well. Mayat Sons, herbsofmayat.com. To continue, the Nanticoke Moors, or Lenape people. Lenape equals Nanticoke Moors. They were the chief tribe of the Wabanaki Confederation of Moors, was the Delaware of Lenabe. Were they black people? Are African Americans the descendants of these Moors? So William Penn, who Pennsylvania is named after, had an eyewitness account of the Lenape, the Nanticoke Moors. And the first detailed description of the Delawares is in a letter from William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. He wrote, "For their persons, they are generally tall, straight, well-built, and of singular proportion. They tread strong and clever, and mostly walk with a lofty chin. Of complexion, black, but by design, are the gypsies in England. They grease themselves with bear fat, clarified, and use no defense against the sun or weather. Their skin must be swarthy." And we know, studying etymology, the word swarthy is another word for Moor, just like tawny. Society William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in 1683. Chief Tamanu, the Blackamoor chief of Turtle Island, Shaker Maxim, Philadelphia. If you can see this image, this is in Philadelphia to this day. There's a lot of symbolism and statues all around America, specifically DC, New York, and Pennsylvania, which were all the three capitals of the United States of America and the 13 colonies. They got a lot of wisdom from these indigenous Moors. And you can see he has an eagle or a falcon on his head. And he's standing on a turtle. And as we know, they called America Turtle Island. And if you look closely, that turtle has a 5-pointed star on it, because the star is a sacred symbol with many esoteric and exoteric meaning, along with the turtle. Sons of Saint Tammany, aka Sons of Liberty, worship a Moorish chief. There was a three-branch system. The three-branch system was copied from the Moors, so-called Delaware, Lenape, or Nanticoke Moors of America. Anami was the executive, or the chief enforcers. Munasi, or the judicial branch, were the interpreters. And Ana Lakutagu were the legislative, 50 women, or oral law traditions. So the myth that Native Indigenous Americans didn't have government or laws or were savages, as the term was definitely used, is definitely a myth. Because they had order, they had laws, they had tribal treaties, they had agreements that colonists like Lewis and Clark and William Penn, when they came here, they learned the ways of these indigenous people and adopted them into each colony that they formed. This is the image of Chief Black Hawk, or Matakam Tamesh Kia. Chief Black Hawk was chief of the Sauk. His birth date is not known. The name Black Hawk is remnants of the Black Hawk or falcon of Kemetic tradition, representing Heru, the resurrected son of Asar or Osiris, the anointed one. Black Hawk was born Ma Ka Ta Me Shi Kia. Mash Shakia or Mash Shichik is the Hebrew word for Messiah. It literally means the anointed. As we can see, this is a part of his name. His last public appearance was ironically July 4th, 1837, a special day in ancient Moorish, Israelite, or Egyptian culture in respect to the astronomical science. We went over this before when July 4th came, talking about the day of the Kefir, Kepra, the scarab beetle. And there's so much science in that day and cosmic event. His attire is in this painting is very Moorish in tradition. Black Hawk was a terror for the whites in the 1800s and is part of a legacy of Black people who have been written off under Red Indian history. The disassociation from Black people as their lineage, as their lineal ancestors, of which they are. The resemblance to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is strikingly similar. So it's no doubt that our ancestors were connected to these bloodlines. The United States, allegedly, for the purpose of exploring the unknown territory from the western edge of the colonies to the Pacific. The true intention was to spy on the indigenous Black people who were in America prior to the European invasions and colonization. Captain Meriwether Lewis and Lieutenant William Clark, who we know now as Lewis and Clark of the United States Army. This was a military campaign, used a Black man named York, who was also the son of Yusuf bin Ali, along with a native woman named Sesone. Sacagawea, found on the Millennium edition of the dollar with her son John Baptiste Charbonnet, to be their interpreters as they gathered intelligence. In the book Return of the Ancient Ones, which we have and offer for a donation, Empress Tiara Verdasi Washita reports, Lewis and Clark documented everything in sight. The weather, the plants, the rocks, the minerals found, the people by tribe, by habit, by color, by war, by warlike activities, and it was documented. A bushy-headed tribe who did not like the red man or the white man, the black bushy-headed Washitas. Now, please explain why history did not make us aware of this important fact. It was because they went to spy on the Washitas, a people that the good old United States had signed to be their protectorates over their rights, their land, and their property. And so I just like to say, a lot of our history was colonized through the pen, through slave brands and slave labels, as our 101s and more science say. They colored us Negro, they labeled us colored and black, but our indigenous name is Moorish or Moor. And then we break down to different tribes and tribal affiliations and bloodlines. Now, the Choctaw, they are rambling hunting parties of them to be met with all over Louisiana. They are at war with the Kalujis and liked by neither the red nor the white people. This was a document on April 5th, 1805. To the right is Masaga, another chief with an Aramaic/Hebrew name. Makasha means the one with man horns, as the painting shows, and it represents his chiefdom. He and his father were recorded to have been in 18 battles with the United States and never lost one. He and his father were allies of the Black Hawk. He traveled with his father to Washington, D.C. in 1824 to meet with President John Quincy Adams. The Secretary of State was Henry Clay. These two, Adams and Clay, were later ordered by Abdur Rahman ibn Hisham to release Abraham ibn Sori, the Prince of Slaves, in 1829. And there's even a film that breaks down the Prince of Slaves. Abraham had been touring all over the West, speaking with these chiefs about the laws that were being used to free him under the Moorish status. In 1840, the government made many treaties with Native Americans and land deals in Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Kansas. John Quitman and Eliza Tunica, the father and mother of Noble Drew Ali, among many other family members, were a part of these transactions and interactions. And anyone who's studied the family of Noble Drew Ali knows that the last name Tunica was anglicized into Turner, and that's the family of Nat Turner as well. And I actually spoke to a brother not recently who said he was direct descendant of that Turner family. And he said it was, they didn't even like to speak about their last name and their origins because it's so much negative connotations that was put with it to their family. To continue, after Lewis and Clark's spy mission, the United States brought 59 European families into the Louisiana Territory, under the guard of the United States Army. The military poisoned the water supply with the intent of murdering off the original indigenous black population. They brought their school curriculums as they enslaved and murdered the black population, making claims that they, the indigenous people, were fugitives from justice under constitutional law and were European property from Africa. However, the people did not consider themselves by nationality or status as Africans until after this was bred into them. The indigenous people in Africa, the indigenous people in Africa did not originally call themselves Africans. They were of Tamari and were Moors. This word African is a word of the white colonizers. There is evidence of this deception, this deceptive activity to falsify our status that is undeniable. It was part of a plan to wipe out our indigenous history in the Americas. The names like Tunica and Washita were turned into Turner and Washington. Some of the wars with the Moors is one in 1752, the so-called French and Indian Wars, were wars between Moors, Black Knight Templar families, and Aboriginal Moors versus British colonists and Great Britain. In 1776, the sons of Tammany allied with the Moors to fight against the British colonists and Great Britain. Some of the British colonists infiltrated the Moors and Sons of Liberty, aka Sons of Tammany, in order to overthrow the Moors. They were people like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Andrew Hamilton, and Benjamin Franklin. Many of the original Black inhabitants began to flee from the Western Territory, and many inhabitants sought refuge in Florida, and some went further west to California and mingled with other unaffectionate indigenous populations. In 1816, a U.S. colonel named Duncan Clinch led an army into Florida to destroy what was called the Black Fort, or Fort Negro. Colonel Duncan Clinch led an army of Red Creek mercenaries as a U.S. Army unit into Florida, to destroy Fort Negro. Excuse me. In the book called The Black West by William Katz reports, The explosion killed almost all of its black and red warriors, and 200 women and children. The few warriors were led back to the United States and slavery. In his initial orders, General Jackson had asked that they not only destroy the fort, but return the stolen Negroes and property to their original owners. But the question remains, did these Aboriginals see themselves as slaves, foreigners, or property of Europeans? Did they see themselves as Africans, Negroes, or colored people? No. In Colonel Duncan Clinch's report of the battle at Fort Negro, the first U.S. invasion of Florida, the information provides facts to the contrary. Colonel Clinch's report reads, In the evening, a deputation of chiefs went into the fort and demanded its surrender, but they were abused and treated with the utmost contempt. The black chief heaped much abuse on the Americas and said he had been left in command of the fort by the British government and that he would sink any American vessel that should attempt to pass, and would blow up the fort if he could not defend it. The chief also informed me that the Negroes had a red flag and the English Jack was flying over it. And the question that must be answered is, were these people former slaves? What was their purpose for flying the two flags that they were flying? For we know slaves do not have flags. A flag represents a nation. What nation or nations did they represent? There were cannons in use at Fort Negro, and it is a well-known fact in history that the cannon was developed by the Moors in North Africa and Spain. The Moors had not only made the fire stick, as mentioned above, but even cannon forged from wrought iron. It said that the two flags represented Great Britain and the indigenous Moorish Empire. For we know that the Moors and North Africans came to the Americas centuries before Europeans and European enslavement and colonization. This is the same Islamic empire in the east that Abu Babakari, brother of Mansa Musa, was flying under when he brought 400 ships to the Americas in 1311 AD. It is this flag that the chief was flying at the Black Fort in Florida. Is this the flag that the chief was flying at the Black Fort in Florida in 1816? Was there a continuous Moorish connection from 1311 with arrival of Moors from the east that is documented in Africa and America until 1816? The documented dates for the presence of contemporary Eastern Moors go as far back as the 700s AD, and we have shown with the inscriptions found from the ancient Nevada school bearing the name of Muhammad as the prophet of Allah. And now we get to the Moorish Holy Circle 7 Quran. Which is another book we offer. And we'll even send you this book for no cost. If you send your email, drop your email in the comments or email us directly, We have no problem sharing this must-have literature of the Moorish Circle 7 Quran. We all must study. Though it is a short book, it has high science. It was gathered and compiled by the Prophet Noble Ali. And it says here, what kind of flag is Moorish? It is a red flag with a 5-pointed green star in the center. The Moorish flag, as presented by Noble Ali, there is an unverified story that George Washington took down the original Moorish Islamic flag in America and locked it in a safe at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. It was alleged a part of his efforts to destroy any knowledge of Islam amongst Black people in the budding American nation. And a lot of us, when we study American history, we only studying primarily Christian history, Christian colonization. But it's a known fact that a lot of the people that even were enslaved were Islamic. And Islam had enslaved Europeans years before this. So it would be only inevitable that Europeans would have interacted with Moors of Islamic descent and learned certain ways and maybe even employed them. And we have books we offer on that topic as well. White Cargo, They Were White and They Were Slaves. We have many documents that can illustrate this factually through scholarship. This is not something I believe. This is historical information, historical evidence. So many nations have been enslaved. It's just the so-called Moor or the so-called Black who was enslaved and given a label that he's proudly wears, which is an adjective, a color. There's no green people, there's no yellow people, there's no white people. There's no nation of people that are colors. But they put these brands on our people to the point that we are defending them to this day with no cultural background. But to continue, it says allegedly it was not retrieved until Noble Ali was given the flag back by high decree Shriners in the 1920s. The Moorish flag was actually dismantled in 1816 from Fort Negro by Colonel Duncan Clinch and General Andrew Jackson. It says the star was added by the colonizing French authority to the Moorish Sharifian flag in Morocco on November 17th, 1915, after France's colonial occupation began. Before this period, it was a completely red flag. It represented the Muslims and Moors of the Maghreb, West Africa, and the Americas, who were traveling back and forth from Africa to America, who were established as indigenous to both lands. Many of the Maroons who were amongst the natives were also called Seminoles, were Muslims, they were Moors who had an ancient presence in America. The chief of this fort, called Fort Negro, was a man of Mande descent. And the Mande, just like they say, we come from the Mande or Mandinka warriors. The Mande are West African Muslims. Mande group is founded by the medieval empires of Ghana and Mali. They include the Bambara, the Dayula, the Malinke, Mande, the Dogon, and the Sinke. So I really challenge all my listeners to study some of those tribes. The Dogon, the Bambara, these are our bloodlines. These are tribes that our people come from Ghana, from Mali. These people were Moors. Now, the chief at Fort Negro during the invasions of Colonel Clinch was named Abraham. His birth name, Sonufe Tusnuge, which means Swanee warrior, and has been associated with the Swanee River in Florida. And Florida has a lot of so-called pirate history. A lot of our Moorish history is hidden in the word pirate. And I challenge anyone to study, add deeper that Moorish history of Florida, of the Georgia coast. The Moorish Mande Arabic word, Sonufe, means powerful spirit. And the Tus Nuge means warrior. This chief, who had a Moorish heritage like most of the Maroons in Florida, was not a former slave. His descendants went back to indigenous people. Abraham served as interpreter for the Seminoles and as legal counsel. And as you can see here, some of these books we will offer, some of these sources, the Holy Circle 7 Quran and Sacred Drift, an essay on the margins of Islam by Peter Lambert Wilson, a high scholar of European descent who tells the truth about our Moorish lineage. Please reach out if you would like any of these documents. Himha Miko, also known as John Jumper, and Holata Miko, known as Chief Billy Bowlegs. Hima Miko was the Seminole chief. His brother, Holata Miko, was also a chief. Abraham served as a representative on their trip to Washington, D.C. to negotiate a treaty with the United States government in 1832. Sonufe Tusnuge, also known as Abraham, was a Maroon, or a Mu, amongst the Seminoles. He was their chief legal counsel and interpreter. It was he who was at Fort Negro in 1816, flying the Moorish flag of the Islamic empires. This is the famous cherry tree that was chopped down. Abraham soon moved west to Oklahoma, and Chief Helote Miko and Chief Himha Miko disappeared in the Everglades. This was the start of the Penn's secret society and other secret societies amongst the Cree and Cherokee, Saragi. These are the societies that later developed into the ancient Egyptian Arabic orders of nobles of the mystic shrines. and the Moorish Science Temple of America. So, what is the connection to the Americas in modern time and history and the efforts of our greatest teachers to reacquaint us with this marvelous and most useful history as witnessed through his activity? Noble Drew Ali had to be very aware of these histories and began to implement repair on our people by repairing the root of our people through knowledge of self as he knew it at the time. This great work continues in the Nation of Islam, along with the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School, which I am a mufti of, and we welcome all brothers and true light seekers and sisters to come listen, study, watch a lot of our past classes and readings. We have a plethora of books, book clubs, readings that we've done. Myself, Noble Mufti Brian Hicks Bey, Mufti Barclay, and all the other muftis who have done readings. So we welcome y'all to dig through our archives and listen to our classes and take notes and have questions, because we are a true study group, a think tank, and we want people to learn more, to be more. We are not a cult, but everyone knows the word cult comes from culture. But we know our lineage. We study Sufism. We study all the ancient sciences, and we challenge all students and light seekers to come learn more, because there's a lot of more American history that needs to be corrected, and to study your own personal bloodline, your own coat of arms. Study your last name of all your family members, because you must remember, slaves don't have last names. A slave would just be called boy or buck. If you had a last name, you must understand that's your coat of arms. That's not a European last name. Europeans were enslaved in the Americas and other parts of the world, just like any other person. And this is no prejudice or no malice with this history. We just want to tell the truth and set the record straight. No one on this planet is a color. We all have rich heritage from Europe, from Africa, Asia, Atlantis. So with all that being said, I think I'm going to stop there. Again, this book is, let me go to the top. This book is available if you would like it. This book is called The Real Indian is the Negro, aka the Blackamoor. This is a rare book that we offer from our library at mypdfbooks.com. That's books with a Z. Bindedbooks.com. If you would like a hard copy of this book. And I'll show you a few of our sponsors. We welcome y'all to come check us out every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We have a podcast, Journey to Knowledge of Self. And we welcome you all to come check out so you can get the story of the brothers and sisters of the Burning Bush Tabernacle and where we all began. Because we are all regular brothers and sisters who study together, who have elevated and in the wisdom. So we really want you to check out this podcast, Journey to a Knowledge of Self, on YouTube. We're also sponsored by Mosso, where you can get cultural regalia, which is inspired by the Moorish Renaissance and the Russian icons, because Moors were everywhere on this four corners of the earth. Some of the other books we offer: Exhuming of a Nation. Just compare the prices you see of this book on Amazon, and we offer it for a fraction of the price. Another book we offer is The Unknown Arabs by Tariq Berry, which gives clear, definite proof of the dark complexion of the original Arabs and the Arab origins of the so-called Negro. It's another must-have book for your library and study. Another one, African Presence in Early Asia by Runoko Rashidi, another must-have book. You can check it at bindedbooks.com or reach out directly to the emails you see on the bottom ticker, mayatsons@gmail.com. We also offer The Golden Age of the Moors, another high-priced book that we offer for a fraction. So we really want y'all to support us, man. You know, Amazon got enough money. They making millions off of these books and selling them for a very higher price than we offer. And this is another great book you should have in your library, Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. Like, some people say this brother gave his life to write this book, and it's definitely one you should study. And again, we are sponsored by mypdfbooks.com, where reading funds the mental. Sponsored by Mayat Sons, Divinely Prepared Tea of Teas. Welcome you to come to herbsofmayat.com and get you some tea to go with your books. Our music is sponsored by BHB Music, Brian Hicks Bay Music. Check out his website and download his hot mixtape, Transportation of Raw Materials. If you need any regalia, fez, turban, kufis, jewelry, suits, go to moorishhaberdasher.com. And last but not least, the brother who's the engine and creates all of these beautiful platforms, go to ALO Design Pros and get your design your online business strategy. He has 3 packages. You definitely want to check out this brother if you need any website or web development. With all that being said, I appreciate all who tuned in. Peace, love, and light, nobles and empresses. Islam, Islam, peace, love, and light.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seed sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager meaning. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but